There's something magnetic about distance. When someone pulls away, the silence feels louder than their words ever did. And when it's someone with an avoidant nature, it's not that they've lost interest. It's that they're fighting a battle between their heart and their instinct to self-protect. They withdraw, not because they don't care, but because caring terrifies them. But here's the truth. Even when they act cold, detached, or indifferent, sometimes they're far more hooked than they'll ever admit. You can feel it. The tension, the hesitation, the quiet obsession hiding beneath the surface. So let's uncover the signs. The subtle clues that reveal you're still very much in his head. He acts like he's fine, like he's unbothered, detached, perfectly calm. But if you look close enough, the mask doesn't fit as tightly as he wants it to. There's tension behind that distance. A quiet struggle between wanting to seem in control and not knowing how to deal with everything he feels. The detachment looks intentional, almost effortless, but it's not. It's something he's forcing. He's trying to convince himself that he's over it, that he's moved on, that what he felt for you has finally burned out. Yet deep down, he knows he's lying to himself. He's not detached. He's disciplined. He's fighting the urge to check, to reach out, to feel. Because avoidance isn't indifference. It's fear wearing a calm face. It's emotional suppression disguised as self-control. When someone is truly done, they move on in peace. There's no resistance, no inner pull, no internal arguments at midnight. But when someone is trying to seem done, there's friction. They think about you when they shouldn't. They remember things they swore they forgot. They scroll past reminders of you, but linger for just a second too long. They tell themselves they don't care anymore. But the way they hesitate before deleting old messages, it says otherwise. His detachment is an act of protection, not rejection. He's terrified of being seen as vulnerable, so he hides behind silence. He convinces himself that ignoring what he feels makes him stronger. But every time your name crosses his mind, he feels that familiar sting, the reminder that distance doesn't erase emotions, it only amplifies them. The harder he tries to suppress, the louder his thoughts become. He won't say it, but he feels it in small ways. In the way he avoids songs that remind him of you. In the way he stiffens when someone mentions your name. In the way his chest tightens when he sees something that mirrors what you once shared. And that's the truth about emotional resistance. It only exists where something real once lived. He's not cold because he doesn't care. He's cold because caring scares him. Because if he lets himself feel it, he risks losing control. So he acts detached, hoping the silence will numb it. But it never does. The more he hides from it, the deeper it seeps into his thoughts. Because pretending not to feel is still a form of feeling. And he's feeling it all. He doesn't reach out directly, but somehow you can feel his presence weaving through the quiet. It's in the timing of his actions, how he becomes active when you are, how he suddenly posts something that sounds like an echo of your thoughts. It's not coincidence. It's his way of staying close without admitting it. Avoidants fear emotional exposure, so they communicate through shadows, through subtle gestures, indirect signals, and quiet patterns that only someone who knows them deeply would notice. He might not send a message, but his energy always finds a way to appear when you least expect it. He'll share a quote about self-growth, heartbreak, or peace, something vague enough to hide behind, but pointed enough that it feels familiar. Maybe he views your stories but never reacts. Maybe he deletes a post right after you see it. It's his silent way of saying, "I'm still here," without having to face the risk of closeness. Avoidants crave connection as much as anyone else. They just fear the vulnerability that comes with it. So instead of saying what they feel, they show it in fragments, hoping you'll notice, but terrified that you actually will. These indirect actions are emotional breadcrumbs, small traces of thought, of longing, of unfinished business. He might not even be fully aware of how much his habits reveal, but he's keeping tabs, measuring the distance, quietly testing if your attention still lingers where he left it. There's an ache behind the silence, a question he's too afraid to ask. Do you still think of me, too? This is how an avoidant stays connected, by pretending not to be. He might follow a new routine, focus on work, fill his time with distractions, but somehow his world keeps aligning near yours. It's his subconscious trying to bridge a gap his conscious mind refuses to cross. His pride says, "Don't reach out." But his emotions keep whispering, "Don't disappear completely." You'll notice that even in absence, he creates proximity. His timing mirrors yours. His silence reacts to your movement. And the truth is, these indirect ways of showing up reveal more than words ever could. Because when someone truly doesn't care, they erase all traces of you. But when someone is hooked and hiding, they stay close enough to watch, quietly, carefully, hoping the distance feels safe enough to mask how much they still care. When you start to pull away, something in him shifts. He doesn't chase, he doesn't reach out, but suddenly his silence matches yours. Almost like he's mirroring the distance, reflecting it back to you. A quiet, invisible tug of war that neither of you speak about, and yet both of you feel. It's not coincidence, it's a response. Avoidants crave control, and one of the ways they maintain it is through emotional balance. If you detach, they detach just a little more. But beneath that stillness, there's unease. Because when you stop reaching, it exposes the truth he's been running from. He was relying on your presence more than he realized. He's used to being the one who decides when to step back, when to open up, when to reconnect. It gives him a sense of safety, a sense of power in a world that often feels unpredictable. But when you mirror his distance, when you stop chasing, it disrupts the rhythm. Suddenly, he's not the one in control anymore. The silence he once created for comfort starts to feel heavier, colder, lonelier. He might not show it, but he feels the shift, the absence of your energy, the quiet in places where your attention once lived. That's the irony of avoidance. They crave independence, yet they get attached to the person who gives them emotional stability from afar. So when that stability withdraws, they feel it deeply. He may act indifferent, but his timing reveals everything. The way he goes quiet when you do. The way he suddenly posts something nostalgic. The way his energy flickers in and out. All subtle signs that your distance has unsettled him. Avoidants fear being chased because it makes them feel pressured. But they fear being forgotten even more. When you stop trying to bridge the gap, he feels that void. It's not that he suddenly wants closeness. It's that your silence forces him to confront the emotions he's been hiding behind his own. And Mel act like he's unaffected, but internally he's wondering if you've finally stopped caring. And that thought alone disturbs his calm. So when he mirrors your absence, don't mistake it for indifference. It's his way of managing a loss he doesn't want to admit. Because deep down, he knows. The more you detach with peace, the more his own detachment turns into reflection. And that's when he begins to realize how much your presence actually mattered. One moment he's cold, distant, unreadable. And the next, there's warmth in his tone, softness in his words, or a flicker of nostalgia in the way he remembers something small about you. That unpredictability isn't confusion, it's emotional leakage. It's what happens when someone who's been suppressing their feelings can't hold them down anymore. Avoidants aren't heartless, they're conflicted. They crave connection, but fear the vulnerability that comes with it. So their emotions don't flow in a straight line. They spill out in waves, inconsistent and unplanned. When he suddenly shifts from cold to caring, from silence to subtle interest, it's not a game. It's his guard slipping for just a second before he rushes to rebuild it. He feels deeply, even if he won't admit it. The problem is that his emotions overwhelm him. So, when they rise, he panics. One day, he might replay a memory and feel a rush of longing, tempted to reach out. But before he can act on it, fear takes over. Fear of rejection, fear of losing control, fear of being seen. So instead of following his heart, he shuts it down again. That's why his energy feels like a pendulum, swinging between closeness and distance, interest and indifference. It's not stability he seeks, it's protection from what he feels too intensely. You can sense it in the pauses between his actions, the hesitation, the inconsistency. The mixed signals that say one thing and mean another. Those shifts reveal the battle inside him. Every time he feels something real, he withdraws to regain his balance. Every time he tries to move on, he gets pulled back by something that doesn't let him. It's not a lack of care, it's an overflow of it. He's drowning in feelings he refuses to name. That's why his emotions show up in strange ways, maybe through random irritation, sudden silence, or unexpected kindness. It's his internal conflict, leaking through the cracks of his composure. Because no matter how detached he tries to seem, emotion always finds a way out. When his words and actions don't align, it's not manipulation, it's confusion. He's trying to escape something he can't stop feeling. And deep down, he knows that no amount of distance or denial can erase what still lingers. Because emotions, no matter how deeply buried, always have a way of resurfacing, especially when the one who caused them still lives quietly in his mind. He tells himself he needs peace. He convinces himself that distance will give it to him, that stepping away will quiet the noise inside. He tells everyone he's fine. That space is what he needed all along. But the truth is, he's not at peace. He's searching for it in silence, and instead of finding calm, he finds echoes. Every thought he tries to escape circles back to you. Every attempt at stillness becomes a reminder of the chaos he misses. Avoidants like to believe they crave peace, but what they actually crave is control. Control over their emotions, over their vulnerability, over anything that makes them feel too deeply. And yet, the more they chase calmness, the more restless they become. He thought that without you, he'd breathe easier. But what he didn't expect was the quiet that came after. Not the kind of quiet that soothes, but the kind that amplifies every unspoken word, every unfinished emotion. The silence becomes heavy, pressing against his chest, making him realize that the noise you brought wasn't chaos. It was connection. It was life. It was the sound of being seen. He starts to notice that peace without feeling isn't peace at all. It's emptiness dressed up as comfort. He might look like he's thriving, staying busy, keeping his schedule full. But when the world slows down, when the distractions fade, and the night stretches long, that's when it hits him that the calm he wanted now feels lonely. That the distance he created doesn't protect him, it isolates him. Avoidants think space will heal them. But real healing doesn't come from escape, it comes from facing what hurts. And what hurts him most is realizing that he pushed away the one person who brought warmth to his walls. So he sits with his so-called peace, feeling the weight of it. The quiet that once felt safe now feels cold. The solitude that once empowered him now feels hollow. And somewhere between those long, silent moments, he starts to understand. You weren't the disturbance in his calm. You were the heartbeat within it. The more he tries to guard his peace, the more he realizes it's already gone with you. Because real peace doesn't come from distance, it comes from connection. And deep down, he knows it, that what he's really missing isn't space. It's the safety he once felt, when he didn't have to hide from what he felt. He doesn't reach out, doesn't ask, doesn't speak your name, yet somehow he knows. He notices things he shouldn't know unless he's still paying attention. The new tone in your posts, the quiet confidence in your smile, the way you've started to glow differently. He may act like he's moved on, but his awareness betrays him. He's watching from the background, observing in silence, pretending it's nothing. Avoidants do this. They detach physically, but stay emotionally alert. They don't want you to know they still care, but they can't help but keep track of you. It's their way of staying close without losing their sense of control. He notices when your energy shifts, when you seem lighter, happier, freer. That subtle change unsettles him. It makes him wonder if you've stopped thinking about him, if someone else is now making you smile that way. He doesn't say it, but he feels it. That strange ache in the pit of his stomach when he realizes your world keeps turning without him. Avoidants want distance, but they also want to remain significant. They crave the reassurance that you still care, even if they're the ones who pulled away. When that reassurance fades, it stirs something deep and uncomfortable. He'll scroll, pause, linger, maybe even revisit old memories when no one's watching. He might not double, tap or comment, but he sees. He pays attention to the details most would overlook. The timing of your words, the look in your eyes, the small traces of change that tell him you're moving on. That awareness keeps him connected, even as he tries to convince himself he isn't. Because deep down, an avoidance doesn't mean indifference. It means he feels too much to handle it openly. And the more he sees you thriving, the more conflicted he becomes. He won't admit it, but it makes him miss the version of himself that existed when he was near you. It reminds him of the warmth he once felt, the comfort he now pretends he doesn't need. Avoidants protect their hearts by observing instead of participating. But when they start noticing you healing, something inside them stirs. A quiet realization that maybe you were never the source of their fear, but the one who softened it. And that's when the silence turns from safety into longing. Because watching you from afar feels easier than facing what he still feels. Yet it's that very distance that keeps reminding him he's not over you.